One of the big new CBS and Channel 11 entries this year is the Saturday Night Show, the Bob Newhart Show. Of course, when you think of Newhart, you think of funny business and monologues and so forth, but this is going to be a situation comedy. One of the principal performers on this is our guest today. He's Peter Bonerz. Now, in the program, as I understand it, Pete, Newhart is a psychologist.
Right.
Now, you are an orthodontist,
right,
a teeth straightener,
right,
and a neighbor in his building.
Right. Actually, I'm not a neighbor in his apartment building. We share office space in an office building in downtown Chicago. And the reason that we do that is the orthodontist that I play is quite interested in psychology and fancies himself as being a bit of a psychologist himself. He straightens out psychological problems of the teeth, and Bob straightens out psychological problems of the entire head.
You deal with thumbsuckers?
Yeah,
and
well, no,
like
yes, the thumbsuckers, but just people whose teeth aren't coming in properly, adolescent people, who very often are inhibited by that fact. And I've seen it in people that I've known, relatives. You know, you straighten their teeth and they smile, and they have a much more deep-seated grace than I think they would have with unstraight teeth.
I've always wondered about that. For instance, I tell you this, I have a theory that fat people who lose weight and are suddenly thin still think of themselves as fat and act like that.
Absolutely.
I think people who've had nose jobs
absolutely
and have beautiful straight noses.
Right. I used to have a beautiful straight nose. And I had this little piece of plastic put in for television work.
I think it's very good. It shows a great character, yes.
Right.
And a good switch.
Right. Usually I wear a rubber ear, too, but I left that off today.
Van Gogh cut his ear off. You put a big rubber one on.
Yeah.
You are, obviously, you've got a whimsical sense of humor. Your background is one of a stand-up
I started out doing stand-up work in New York, and then I got into theater where I really wanted to be all along, except that I was 22. A 22-year-old person doesn't simply go to New York and get to be in plays. You have to do something else.
Right.
And I had done some emceeing and small nightclub work in Milwaukee, which is my home. So I just kept that up in New York. There was much more of an opening at that time for a comedian than for an actor.
It will be interesting. Apparently you're going to have some comic lines.
Oh, yeah.
Or you do have comic lines in the Bob Newhart Show.
They better be.
Well, it's written in. But what happens? How does your chemistry of your comedy jive with Bob Newhart style?
Well, I've known Bob for a while. We were on a film together in Catch-22, and we got along very well. Our backgrounds are similar. We're from the Midwest. We were both educated in high school and college by the Jesuits. So we have a real similar background, and he is quiet and unassuming, and I am loud and egotistical. So we seem to fit ourselves together pretty well.
I was reading up on some stuff in your background that interested me a great deal, because it seems to have such a great relationship to what we do on TV, that is talk shows. We don't have any scripts, you know, Peter.
Right.
And we have to ad-lib a lot, and there are a lot of situations for which you may not be prepared. And sometimes,
right,
if you're graceful, you can get over an awkward moment. Sometimes one of us will wind up clumsy looking. But I lead this up to the point that you used to improvise. You used to be in dramatics that would make up.
Right, I still do. I was with the Premise Theater in New York City, which was an improvised theater, and I was with the Committee Theater, which I directed and acted in for a long time in San Francisco and in Los Angeles. The Committee now has a show running in Los Angeles, and whenever I have a night off, I'll go down and improvise with, and it's like jazz music. You can play for an orchestra, let's say Duke Ellington, and you play charts. It's like a show. It's like a comedy show. You have lines and you read them off. And you can play a jam session. After hours, you go someplace and you don't know what you're going to play. You know it's a melody line, and that's why we improvise. We know we're going to do a scene about a husband and wife who are arguing over the summer chair, lawn chair. But that's all we know. We don't know what we're going to say. We don't know where it's going to end. And it's a tremendous thing to work out. It keeps you free. It keeps you
saw the Committee in San Francisco.
Yes. Did you see me in it?
I don't know at the time. I
was younger.
A while. Weren't we all? But I enjoyed it enormously. I once saw a group of improvising actors perform, and they said they had a way to get out if they made up the lines as they went along.
Right.
And they got to a place they couldn't find a way out of the play. They all pretended they had poison rings open.
That was the premise.
Was that the premise?
Yeah.
And then they fell down dead on the stage,
Right.
and that was the end of that.
Now, that's interesting because they almost never used that.
No.
That was something that they said at the beginning of the play to cause laughter and to give the audience, to release the tension that is normally in an audience when you say you're not going to do something that you know what you're going to do. The audience, you see, an audience in a play is tentative until they know what the play is about, how dirty it's going to be, how spiritual it's going to be, what's going on. So that specific thing, that the gag was placed in there so the audience wouldn't feel nervous for the actors.
Right.
But it was almost never used for the actor. The better an improvising company, the less tricks they have for getting out of tight situations, or you think, well, they have code words, right? They know where they're going. And if somebody says the color green, they know they're going to do that ending about the ant committing suicide and coming in with a thing in her side. But that never happens. If it's a good company, they don't need that.
Yes. It's very difficult, isn't it?
It's like anything, you know. It's good because it's difficult, and it's difficult, therefore it's good.
On your new program, the Bob Newhart Show, you have this lovely Suzanne Plachette in. Oh, that's.
I don't. Bob has the lovely Suzanne Plachette. He's married to her. I just say hi.
But she decorates the set very well, I would.
Oh no, she decorates the entire world. I mean, she's a sensational actress. I had only seen her in plays and then films, and I didn't really know what a qualified comedian she was. You know, you don't normally assume just because a person is able to deliver lines that they can do comedy, but she really knows about that. She has, I don't know, I guess she's from New York. She has that certain sense of lightness somewhere very deep in her that she's able to touch.
The fact that you are no longer going to be a hired hand going improvising here and being in the premise there give you a certain stability. Does this give you something to look forward to now that you're in a TV series? Will that change your way?
I don't think so. I think that there is no stability in I'd like to think of it as the arts. If there were stability, or if I found myself really, really feeling stable, I think that I would do something to cause, to break that up a little bit. Part of the fun of doing what I do is the lack of foreknowledge as to exactly what you're going to do and do next. So while I would like to be able to keep the payments up on my house, they aren't that much. I mean, I would very much like to go back to work for the committee, for instance, or to do an off-Broadway show, or to do an Ionesco play in Atlanta, or in Madison. Yeah, I really would. Because if you get settled, I mean, if you do a television show for 12 years, I don't think I could really hack that now, you know?
Well,
I think
however long it's going to be, I hope it's to be to your liking.
I hope so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Our guest today has been the man who plays the part of Dr. Jerry Robinson, an orthodontist, on the Bob Newhart program on Channel 11 and CBS, and the Bob Newhart program. You'll like it very much, and we thank him very much for being our guest today.